Hi everyone, I'm back with two chapters, chapters 5 and 6. So let's recap chapter 4. Chapter 4 was called Freako. Junie B was not pleased with her grandfather for accidentally pulling out her tooth. And when she looks in the mirror, she thinks she looks like a freako. But then Grandpa talks her into thinking that she looks cool. She looks cute. And so she looks in the mirror, does a lot of funny faces, and I think she gets used to the idea of having a lost tooth. So chapter 5 is called The Fairy, which we know from prior chapters. She was nervous about the tooth fairy coming for her tooth, so we're going to find out why. Chapter 5, The Fairy. That night, we had festivities. Festivities is when my grandma and grandpa come over, and all of us eat cake. Grandma Helen Miller made the cake herself. She put a big smiley face on the top. Only that is not all, because the smiley face had a missing tooth, like me. I laughed and laughed at that silly thing, and then I reached in my pocket and I got my tooth and I passed it around the table. "Oh, that's a beaut," "That's a beaut, Junie B," said Grandma Miller. "I know it, Grandma. I know it's a beaut," I said, real proud. When you say something's a beaut, you're saying it's beautiful. "I can't wait to take it to school for show and tell. The children are going to love this thing." Daddy looked strange at me. "Oh, gee, I don't know, honey," he said. "I'm not really sure you should take your tooth to school." Mother shook her head. "No, Junie B, that's definitely not a good idea," she said. "And besides, you won't even have your tooth on Monday, remember? You have to leave it for the tooth fairy tonight." Just then, here are those describing words, my skin got chill bumps again, and the flutterflies came back into my stomach. How is she feeling? She's feeling nervous. Because I know stuff about the fairy, that's why. My voice felt kind of shaky. "Yeah, only, well, what if I don't want to leave my tooth for the fairy, Mother?" I said. "What if I just want to, take it to show and tell and that's all?" Mother shook her head again. "No, Junie B, no show and tell," she said. "Taking a tooth to show and tell is just, well, it's just..." "Disgusting," said Daddy. "Yes," said Mother, "disgusting." I whined at those two. "No, it isn't," I said. "Lots of kids bring teeth to school. 'Cause one time Roger brought a shark's tooth, and he even let me and Herb put it right in our mouths. And then we looked like sharks, too." I thought some more. Plus another time Shirley brought her grandmother's dentures, and lots of us put those in our mouths, too. Dentures are fake teeth that people wear when they don't have any more teeth, so sometimes old people have dentures. Let's see. Grandma Miller did a little gag. Ooh. Only I don't actually know why. My grandpa patted her hand. "Just be glad she doesn't want to take the spit cup," he whispered. Just then my whole face lighted up, 'cause I have ears like a hawk, that's why. "The spit cup! The spit cup! I will take the spit cup," I hollered. I jumped down from my chair and I zoomed to the bathroom. Then I got the spit cup out of the trash and I dusted it off real good. "Good news, people," I shouted real loud. "There's still some blood around the edges." I quick ran back to show them. Grandma Miller closed her eyes at the sight. And then Mother put her head on the table and hid her face in her arms, like this. And the festivities were over, I believe. So she thinks that, okay, fine, if I can't bring my tooth to school, then everyone will want to see the cup that I spit my blood into in the bathroom. After Grandma and Grandpa Miller left, Mother took me into the bathroom and we brushed my teeth real careful. Then I took my loose tooth out of my pocket and I brushed that guy too. I held it up to the light. "Look," I said, "look how shiny I made it. I really wish I could take this tooth to school, Mother. I really, really wish that with all my might." Mother gave me a hug. "I know you do, Junie B," she said, "but it's still going to be fun to put it under your pillow tonight, remember?" She smiled. I remember when I was a little girl, I couldn't wait to wake up in the morning and find out how much money the tooth fairy had left me. My skin got prickly on that name again. All right, so prickly. It's getting hot and prickly. She's getting nervous again. Also, sweaty came on my head. I thought and thought about what to do. Then finally I stood on my tiptoes and I whispered in Mother's ear. Yeah, only I know this stuff about the tooth fairy, Mother, I said. I know the truth. Mother looked shocked at me. Yes, I whispered again. I know the exact truth, Mother. 'Cause last year Polly Allen Puffer told me the entire story. I took another big breath. Then I cupped my hands around her ear and I talked even quieter. Polly Allen learned from his big brother that the tooth fairy isn't a fairy at all. She's actually a teensy little witch. My mother's mouth came all the way open. A tooth witch? Shh, I said. We have to talk soft, Mother. If the tooth witch hears anyone telling her secret, she flies into their room at night and she pinches their cheeks. Mother covered her face with her hands. She was in shock, I believe. Polly Allen's brother even saw the tooth witch, I said, 'cause one night he put a tooth under his pillow and then he stayed awake all night and he saw the tooth witch fly into his room on a teensy little toothbrush. Oh my, said Mother. I know it is oh my, I said, and that is not even the worstest part, 'cause the witch walked right under his pillow and she carried out his tooth and then she chomped a big bite out of it, just like it was a little tooth apple. Mother made a noise behind her hands. I patted her very nice. I know how you feel, I said. This is very hard to hear. Finally, Mother took her hands away. But it doesn't really make any sense, Junie B., she said. I mean, why would a mean little witch leave money under a pillow? A witch would never do something that nice, would she? I rolled my eyes way up to the ceiling like that, 'cause sometimes I have to explain everything to that woman. Of course she would, Mother. Don't you get it? The witch leaves money so that children think she's a real fairy. 'Cause if children don't think there's a fairy, they won't leave their tooth, right? And if they don't leave their tooth, the witch won't get any tooth apples. Mother closed her eyes very tight. Then all of a sudden, she opened up the bathroom door and she ran right out of the room. She was taking it harder than I thought. And that was chapter 5. Moving on to chapter 6, it's called Full of Soup. You could either pause the video and watch this chapter later, or you could stick around and listen. So, Full of Soup. That night, Daddy tucked me into bed. He said that Polly Allen Puffer's brother is full of soup. So basically saying he's lying. There's no such thing as a tooth witch, Junie B., he said. I promise you there isn't. Polly Allen Puffer's brother just made that up to scare Polly Allen, and then Polly Allen said it to scare you, too. I shook my head. No, Daddy. No, it's not made up. I know it isn't. 'Cause the tooth witch makes sense, that's why, I said. She makes way more sense than a fairy. Daddy raised his eyebrows. Why? He asked. Why would a witch make more sense than a fairy? Because, I said, because the tooth witch likes to chomp the teeth. But the tooth fairy doesn't do anything with the teeth at all, right? And so why would she even pay money for them? Daddy did a little frown. Well, I don't know exactly what she does, and I'm sure that she must do something with the teeth, Junie B. There are other things to do with teeth besides chomping them, you know. Like what? I asked. Daddy put his head in his hands, and then he thought and thought and thought. Too many questions. After he got done thinking, he went to get Mother. She came into the room carrying Fussy Ollie. She handed him to Daddy and sat down on my bed. Daddy said you have another problem about the tooth fairy, she said. I nodded. Yes, 'cause if there's a fairy, and then she has to have a reason to want my teeth, right? She wouldn't just throw them in the garbage, 'cause that doesn't make any sense. Plus, also, it would hurt my feelings. Mother hugged me. No, Junie B., of course she doesn't throw them in the garbage, she said. I'm sure the fairy does something very special with the teeth. Like what? I said. Mother ran her tired fingers through her hair. She walked back and forth on my rug. Then all of a sudden, her face got brighter. I know. I bet the fairy uses the teeth to make jewelry, she said. So here's Mom and Dad dealing with Junie B. at night, asking them a ton of questions. So, jewelry, I said finally. Sorry, I'm trying to get comfortable. Mother smiled. Yes, of course, she said. She probably uses the teeth to make little tooth necklaces and bracelets and cute little toe rings. How does that sound? I made a sick face. It sounds repulsive, said Daddy. Repulsive means gross. Mother stopped smiling. She quick took Ollie back from Daddy and she hurried out of my room. After she left, Daddy finished tucking me into bed. I'm sorry about that, Junie B., he said. I'm afraid Ollie has your mother, worn to a frazzle these days. But I'm sure she's not right about that jewelry thing. He did a little shiver. No, certainly not, he said. Then, before I could ask any more questions about the fairy, he kissed me goodnight, and he rushed out of my room as fast as Mother. That night, I did not put my tooth under my pillow. Also, I did not put it under there for the night after that or the night after that, because you know what? The fairy still did not make sense to me. I forgot to show you a picture from chapter 5. So this is when Junie B was telling her mom about the tooth witch. Mom looks very surprised to hear about her, as was I. And the next chapter is called A Stumper. And a stumper, or something that stumps you, is something that confuses you. So that makes me think there will be something that is confusing to Junie B maybe in the next chapter. And I also want to take a second to talk about Junie B as a character, because every character has character traits. Something that describes who they are as a person, as a character, their personality. And one of the things I'm noticing about Junie B is that she's a very curious character. She wants to know a lot of things. She questions a lot of things. So that is her main trait in this story so far. But we also know that she's very silly and she talks back to adults, and I love her. She's the best character. But as we continue, we'll see a little bit more about how she feels about the Tooth Witch possibly coming to her house, or the Tooth Fairy. I hope you enjoyed chapters 5 and 6. I will be posting 7 and 8 tomorrow, and then 9 on Monday.